My motivation, I suppose we could start with the flip side of this, which was trotted out in Christchurch Central last week, which rather tickled me, and that was that it relieves everybody else of the obligation to do it. And that's not bad for a start. But clearly there's a serious underlying point to all this, and it is that some of us have a drive to put ourselves forward and go into the arena, if that's the right terminology, and we have to ask ourselves why. In my case, it's clear enough. Over the past few decades, I have deepened the concern over the plight of the planet and of humanity and of New Zealand's place in this, and the way in which we are vulnerable to the global trends, clearly, and what New Zealand can do, play a role in the vanguard of change to try to alleviate that. And that has, over the years, led me overseas. The better part of the last 3 decades I have spent overseas working at a policy level, trying to tackle these global problems and help alleviate the plight we're in. And that's been very interesting and stimulating and exciting in some ways, and there has also been something missing. And I realized that later on, that what was missing was essentially the heart of the total body. The mind had been in action and the heart had not been in gear. And so when the time came, a little bit belated perhaps, that I learned that I was offered a fellowship here at Canterbury University, and I would be returning to New Zealand, that was the very day that I joined the Green Party of Aotearoa New Zealand, online from New York inside the United Nations building. And that was in January 2005, and coming back in August 2005, ever since then I have got increasingly active in the party, and I must say that I have loved every minute of it. And I must say also that I have been very enriched by this, because what I said about the heart, it has been proven to be correct. The heart is there in this party, and it is the heart and the passionate commitment of individuals in grassroots democracy that buttresses any kind of intellectuality and any kind of policy making you might wish to do. And that policy making is not going to go anywhere without that driving force of political participation in parties. And so I have found this very enriching in the last couple of years. And the personal motivation, I think, is best summed up in a recollection, if I may. It was exactly a month ago, I think today, that I was on Waiheke Island with Marilyn. And we're down on Little Oniroa Beach, which is ours. And I took the hand of my 3-year-old granddaughter, and we walked along Little Oniroa Beach, and we walked past our lagoon. And that was a very special moment to me because it was the first time I had done it with my granddaughter. It was also the first time that we encountered a sign that said health warning. This water is contaminated and unfit for human consumption, and a warning for children not to play in it. So we swam in the bay, and we played on the swings, and we didn't go anywhere near that lagoon, our lagoon, of our country, clean, green New Zealand, Waiheke, Little Oniroa. And I was ashamed, and it is just not good enough. And so that's the motivation, that's all the motivation I need to be galvanized to do more. And she was too young, Mia Annika Graham, far too young, to read the sign, but her innocent look, to me, I think charges our generation with a choice. We either engage in redemptive action on this, or we acknowledge an admission of guilt. And of course, when you perceive it like that, there is just no contest. What's my take on politics? What do we do about it? The way I see it, politics in New Zealand at least, is the democratic vehicle by which society shapes the terrain in a way that enables us all as individuals and as families and as communities to do 2 things. To provide decently for ourselves in freedom, and having done that, to strive for some kind of self-fulfillment of whatever direction, whatever kind we so choose, in freedom. And that's very, very important to all of us. And of course, traditionally, that has been done through two main political values: group security on one hand, and individual freedoms on the other. And it won't be lost on us that those are the values that buttress the two main political parties in this country, and rightly so. And that's the traditional approach. And that is no longer sufficient, because we have encountered now problems of huge magnitude that are entirely novel. And those values themselves are not going to be sufficient to resolve this. And what we need now is a new value, a new central organising principle for this century, which is called sustainability. And it will be a new value, and it will take those two, and it will move them forward in a synthesised way, so that we can begin to solve the problems of the 21st century with this new synthesised value. And the Green Party is the vehicle for that. It's as simple as that. And that is why I joined the Green Party. I believe that the Green Aspiration 2008 is twofold. New Zealand needs to be a sustainable society, and New Zealand needs to have a decent world view. And the two go together very closely, but the first precedes and is a condition of the second. You will not have, I think, a decent world view if you don't have a decent sustainable society in the first place. So how do we get a sustainable society in New Zealand? Well, it isn't the economy stupid. At least not in the sense of raw, mindless, material economic growth. Sustainability very clearly rests on the four green principles. New Zealand needs to be ecological. New Zealand needs to be just. New Zealand needs to be democratic. And New Zealand needs to be peaceful. And if we can get those together and move it along, then we're in the business of getting a sustainable society in New Zealand.